Hello, I'm Mihal. I've been trying to get my students to engage more in my online classes, as sometimes I feel like I'm speaking into the void. Rather than me simply presenting slides, I want my students to work together and contribute in the live online classes. Last week I ran Breakout Sessions. Students were asked to prepare a critique of an artifact relating to the course and present this back to the main class. After having explained the task to the students, I randomly allocated all 25 attendees into 5 breakout groups. I then went into each room myself to see how they were getting on. The first group had issues with their microphones. After we figured out that I hadn't enabled mics for the students in the breakout rooms, we then found out that 2 students had no microphones at all. The second group had started the task when I went to visit them, but they were not able to use the whiteboard tools and couldn't figure out how they might share the editing of the document they planned to present. The third group hadn't fully understood the task, so I spent some time explaining it to them. When I finished with this group, I couldn't remember which groups I had already visited, and I wasted some time trying to find out. Anyway, it was well past the time at that point that I had to bring them back into the main classroom. The presentations were also a bit of a disaster. One group had no one with a working microphone, so they couldn't present orally and had to use the chat box. Another group spent ages trying to upload their slide, and yet another had not nominated a presenter. They all complained that I had cut short their breakout session without warning them, and they didn't have enough time to complete the task. Some of them suggested that they hadn't had enough time in the first place to even really study the artifact. By the time we got to the last group, the class was nearly over, and I hadn't summarized anything or gone through the material they needed to focus on for their next assignment. While I felt that students engaged more in this class than the previous one, and some interesting questions relating to the course materials emerged from the group work, I know this could have been done better. I want to continue with this approach, but what should I do to make it run more smoothly the next time? What should Mihal do to make this work? Should he run a practice breakout room in advance of the class, making sure students can use the mics and all the tools? Should he ask the students to engage with one of the resources prior to the class and to have a critique of that resource prepared for when the class starts? Should he explain the exercise in detail prior to the breakouts and run a poll to find out if everyone understood? Or are there other things that Mihal should try?